What is psychological criticism? Psychological criticism draws upon psychological theories and its interpretation of a text, and psychological criticism deals with the work of literature as an expression of personality, state of mind, feelings, and desire of its author. And it investigates the psychological and personality of a character and author to figure out the meaning of a text and to explain and interpret the work. Psychological criticism focuses primarily on the characters and on what psychological forces influence and shape them throughout the work. This school of criticism emphasizes characters' development and the relationship between characters, and the literary practice of examining a writer's work via a psychological perspective is known as psychological criticism. This method examines the author of the piece or a character in it psychologically. It aids reader in comprehending both the author's and the character's motivation.
Who is Sigmund Freud? Sigmund Freud, born on May 6, 1856 in Freiburg, Moravia, Austrian Empire, died September 23, 1939 in London, England, Austrian neurologist and the founder of psychoanalysis.
Freudian criticism is a literary criticism that uses psychoanalytic theory of Sigmund Freud to interpret a work in terms of the known psychological conflict of its author, or conversely, to construct the author's psychic life from unconscious revelation in his work. Freud models of psychoanalytic. The notion that human psychic personality has multiple aspects is perhaps Freud's most persistent and significant insight. According to Freud's personality theory, which was published in 1923, the id or ID, ego, and superego are three distinct components of the psyche that develop at the various times during our lives. Id is an innate, unconsciously present aspect of our identity. We crave pleasure above all else because it is controlled by natural pleasures like anger, thirst, and hunger, which must be restrained. Ego is a conscious and unconscious aspect of who we are that resides between our impulse, our id, and our conscience, our superego, to maintain the balance between the two.
Superego, it is both unconscious and conscious component of our identity that emerges after the id as well as the ego. This, however, clashes with the id because it is motivated by our morality.
The unconscious mind is referred to as a storehouse of emotion, drives, thoughts, and memories that are hidden from conscious awareness of personality. Freud held that even when people are not aware of these underlying effects, the unconscious nevertheless has an impact on how they behave.
Psychoanalytical literary criticism can focus on one or more following. First, the author. The theory is used to analyze the author and his or her life, and the literary work is seen to supply evidence for this analysis. This is often called psychobiography. Second, the characters. The theory is used to analyze one or more of the characters. The psychological theory becomes a tool to explain the character's behavior and motivations. The more closely the theory seems to apply to the characters, the more realistic the work appears. Third, the audience. The theory is used to explain the appeal of the work for those who read it. The work is seen to embody universal human psychological processes and motivations, to which the reader responds more or less unconsciously. And lastly, the text. The theory is used to analyze the role of language and symbolism in the work. Disadvantages and advantages. For disadvantages, psychological criticism can turn a work into little more than psychological case study, neglecting to view it as a piece of art. Critics tend to see sex in everything. Exaggerating this aspect of literature, some works simply do not lend themselves to this approach. And for advantages, helpful for understanding work whose characters have psychological issues. A valuable tool in understanding human nature, individual characters, and symbolic meaning.
The analysis focuses on the biographical circumstances of an author. The main goal is to analyze the unconscious elements within a literary text based on the background of the author. It helps the reader to understand the motivation of the writer as well as the characters. In other words, this criticism helps us to understand why the writer writes the way he does. How have his biographical circumstances affects his writing, and why do characters
And here's the examples of psychoanalytical literary criticism.
The Ego and the ID is a prominent paper by Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis. Is an analytical study of the human psyche, outlining his theories of the psychodynamics of the ID, ego, and the superego, which is of fundamental importance in the development of psychoanalysis. The study was conducted over the years. Warrior and for the love of a daughter, according to Louis Tyson, the unconscious is the storehouse of those painful experiences and emotion, those wounds, fears, guilty, desire, and unresolved conflict we do not want to know because we feel like we will be overwhelmed by them. This song represents Demi's unconscious. They bring to life her greatest fears, her most painful experiences, and the ones she carries, whether they be visible or not. Instead of repressing her thoughts and expunge them from her mind, she brings them out through her music. The 2001 psychological drama film The Piano Teacher is an adaptation by German director Michael Haneke of Alfred Jelenich's 1983 novel, The Character Study of repressed piano teacher Erika Kohut. In The Piano Teacher, Michael Haneke interrogates the notion of good and evil through the ambiguous protagonist Erika Kohut. Haneke blurs the line of her virtuous qualities of nefarious intentions, thereby introducing a unique female figure to film history.